Hello and welcome to Southeastern's 14th preview of Kentucky and South Carolina. I'm Chris Lee. He's Blayne Gilmer. Kentucky heads to Columbia. Both teams off very different results. Kentucky got its doors blown off by Alabama, which happens to teams this time of year. South Carolina got a blowout win over Vanderbilt at home, which happens to teams this time of year. And now these two teams meet in Columbia, and South Carolina needs a win to get a chance to go to bowl. Kentucky needs a win just to feel better, Blayne.
Man, I thought you were really going to double up on the doors analogy there and say, you know, Kentucky got their doors blown off, and then you were going to say South Carolina, you know, blew the doors off the doors. That was a missed opportunity there, Chris. But no, it was as Vandy tends to do, makes teams look great. South Carolina, of course, has been explosive through the air for large portions of the year. Spencer Rattler played a lot like he did early in the season. Kentucky, we're going to talk about it. There were some missed opportunities. That game could have been a lot closer than what it was against Alabama. So just have to see which identity of these teams is actually tapped into this week, because they've both been a little Jekyll and Hyde throughout the year, Chris.
All right, today's preview is presented by BetOnline. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling. College basketball underway as well. BetOnline remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL, all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips, both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. All caps, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Well, BetOnline has got Kentucky a road favorite by 2 points with an over-under of 54. That makes Kentucky the predicted winner by a final of 28-26. Other services, computers all over the place. You've got, on one hand, you've got Jeff Sagarin has got South Carolina a 2-point favorite. Team Rankings has got South Carolina a 3-point favorite. FPI has got South Carolina a 4-point favorite. And then you have SP Plus, which might be my favorite of all of them, although they do some weird stuff, and they've had Kentucky high all year. They've got Kentucky by 7 on the road here. So
wow.
Pick your poison. Whatever opinion you'd like to support here, you can find something to support that.
Oh, no doubt. And it's going to be interesting to see, like I said, which one of these teams show up in terms of identity, Chris, because we know South Carolina's been, and we're going to talk about each side of the ball here in just a second and throw out numbers and all that kind of stuff. But we know that South Carolina's been kind of high flying on offense a lot of times when they're healthy. They're healthier on offense now. And then Kentucky, when they're at their best, they're getting the run game and the play action going. So, and then they try to play sound defense, but there's been times where there's been lapses on both sides of the ball, particularly in the secondary. So, we'll examine those when we get into each side of the ball here.
Well, when Kentucky's got the ball, Cats averaging just over 29 points a game. South Carolina giving up about a half point less than that, 28.8 points a game. Kentucky rushing plays, averaging 6 yards a rush, 6 yards per passing play. Or excuse me, 6.2 per passing play, 6.0 per rush. Not many schools in the conference have a spread that narrow. South Carolina giving up 5.8 and 4.4. So the defense been okay there. Man, I think this comes down to Devin Leary. He just has been more missed than hit. South Carolina's defense really vulnerable. Vanderbilt did not take advantage of that last week as that game was played in rain and the ball was slippery and everything. But, yeah, Ray Davis has tailed off a little bit lately too. Carolina, one of the worst defenses in the league. Although Kentucky's offense did find something to feel good about here, where they scored more points against Alabama than most teams this year, Blayne.
Yeah, they were only the third team to score 3 touchdowns in a game against Alabama, joining Texas and LSU. So even though that it was a blowout loss, like you said, and the offense struggled mightily, only going 3 of 11 on third down, I think that was the big key to this game, Chris. They just weren't able to extend drives and give their defense a breath over there. And we'll get to the defensive issues here in just a minute. But when we talk about Devin Leary and we talk about these receivers, it's been all year. Okay, if Leary throws something accurate, they either drop it or, you get something like Barian Brown did where he fumbled it right after he caught the ball and put Alabama in a position to go up 21-0 in that game. The thing about it, Chris, is there were opportunities to execute here, and it's just not getting on the same page in terms of, okay, you're not able to play complementary football offensive and defensively, but also you're not able to play complementary sometimes when the passing game is going. They can't get anything going with the run. There's not been a game where they've been able to have a good mix of run pass within that offense, and you're going to have that against South Carolina. Night game, Williams-Brice Stadium, the crowd noise is going to be off the chart. They always have a great environment there at South Carolina, regardless of what their record is. So how does Devin Leary and this offense handle that on the road? A night game earlier this year against Georgia, they didn't handle it too well, had some penalties and things like that. And I know you'll get into penalties in a little bit, but they have to establish Ray Davis early. They have to find ways to get movement on this South Carolina front. Now, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, South Carolina went on the road to Texas A&M, and they actually played pretty well defensively in terms of holding the run game down, things of that nature. But I think, the back end of that secondary is what you have to test, and that's going to mean that Devin Leary has to throw the ball with confidence and on time. They do a decent job of protecting him. So we'll see how that Kentucky offense, can Liam Cohen and company bounce back and execute just what's given to them out there.
Correction, South Carolina giving up 7.2 yards per pass play. And I knew that felt low. So the opportunities are there. Problem for Kentucky, turnover rate of 2.2%. That's high. Carolina giving up 1.8% of forcing them. Yeah, and so maybe watch the weather on that one. But in any case, yeah, I mean, neither team thrilled about where they are, although Kentucky at least found something of life on that side. And South Carolina did too, although I tend to discount that, given who it was playing a week ago. All right, when Kentucky's got the ball, when Carolina's got the ball, Gamecocks averaging nearly 29 points per game, Kentucky giving up 25. Rushing, Carolina 4.2 per rush play, Kentucky giving up 4.3. Pass plays, Carolina 7.1 per pass play. So take all those sacks out of there, and that's what they're getting. And Kentucky giving up 6.4. Kentucky forcing turnovers at a 2.1% rate. Carolina coughing it up 1.7%. Yeah, I mean, Spencer Rattler, when he's got time to get the ball off, everybody knows he and Xavier Legette, who went over 1,000 yards last week, both dangerous. Mario Anderson had a season high in rushing yards, although we had, I think, 72 of that came on one play last week against Vandy. Other than that, Carolina just hasn't been very good running the ball. Kentucky's defense can take it away and have been ball hawkish at times, but also has really struggled lately against the heftier offensive portion of the schedule too.
Yeah, and the thing for Kentucky, it's just bust in the back end. I mean, just letting people run wide open. They would play solid defense on first and second down and get to a couple critical third downs early on in that game versus Alabama. And the same thing against Georgia. They get to some third down scenarios earlier this year, and they're not able to get off the field. And sometimes they're leaving guys running wide open, guys getting out of position, not having eye discipline on the back end. Now they were without Andrew Phillips in that game against Alabama, but still, regardless, you got to be able to fill in. You got to be able to have eye discipline and not, I know it's a mobile quarterback with Jalen Milroe last game. Spencer Rattler can move around as well, Chris. He's not a statue. He can manipulate things and move around. So we'll see if Kentucky has learned from that, if they can be more disciplined on the back end. Because here's the thing about South Carolina's offense. Yeah, they're going to run it just enough to try to keep you honest with Mario Anderson, and he's had more success as the years has gone on. But this game against Vanderbilt was really the first time in a long time, Chris, that they've had Xavier Legette, Amraheem Brown, Omega Blake, and Josh Simon all healthy at the same time. And that helps out Spencer Rattler a lot when you got those big targets able to throw it to and get the ball out to. Should be a good matchup, but I'm looking at that Kentucky secondary specifically because if there's one thing that Dow Loggins and Shane Beamer and Spencer Rattler are going to do? They're going to take their shots, and they're going to try to dial up some plays deep. So can they get enough pressure on Spencer Rattler with that offensive line? It's kind of a makeshift offensive line right now for South Carolina. And can they avoid just straight up bust on the back end to prevent from South Carolina having some momentum early?
Yeah, good point there. South Carolina was a lot more versatile last week in beating Vandy. It wasn't just Xavier Legette, which a lot of times it seems like they depend so much on he and Rattler, and of course Juice Wells when he was healthy too. But we always look at some miscellaneous stuff. Penalty yards: Kentucky 56 a game, South Carolina 54. Special teams: SP Plus ranks Kentucky 25th, South Carolina 20th. Gamecocks have been historically really good there and moving up a little bit. Look, we've heard the famous phrase Cocktober, and I thought that's such a misnomer because October is not when Carolina plays well. It's November. We are in November. South Carolina really picked it up. Again, I think a lot of that's got to do with Vandy, but Shane Beamer has done this 3 years in a row where they play their best ball at the end of the season. You got Clemson coming up in a couple of weeks. You know they're going to be up for that one. I'm going to take the Gamecocks to win at home here, Blayne.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the motivation, I think, in terms of Kentucky, right? And here's what I mean by that. They've already reached bowl eligibility, so they've got their six wins. They are well short of the goals that they had set before the year. Some disappointing losses, but South Carolina has some young guys that are playing for that bowl game and for an opportunity to get towards the 5th win this week. That would set up a really important game for a 6th win against Clemson, an opportunity to get a 6th win if they're able to get this one. I think that I never want to discount Mark Stoops and his ability to motivate his team. However, I just think that at this point in the year, like you said, South Carolina coming off a hot game, getting some of their pieces back on offense. And I think that the deterioration of the play in the secondary for Kentucky is concerning to me. I think South Carolina and Spencer Rattler have a nice day in this one, and I think they end up winning at home at night, Williams-Brice Stadium. I'm going to go with them as well. And guys know that hurts me right here because I was big on Kentucky in the year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought the Cats were going to do well with Devin Leary, and he's just not been the guy that I thought he was going to be. That neither of those receivers lived up to expectations either. Defense has actually, you know, faltered a little bit. It's been rough over the last couple of games, but give me South Carolina to win at home.
Yeah, neither team thrilled about where they are coming into this one, but between being home and Carolina having a little bit more to play for, I think we're on the same page. We're previewing all 3 games involving SEC on SEC this week. Best way to get those, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, enable your notifications so you know when something is coming on our channel. God bless you. Have a great day. Thank you for watching Southeastern 14 presented by BetOnline.